I thought, I'll start from the river and see where I can see you. And of course you have to get right opposite. And then you can see you very clearly. You've got a nice view of the river.
Yes.
But on either side, you're being towered over. Who's this guy behind you?
It's our Lord Jesus Christ.
Oh.
Jesus Christ.
Oh.
My name is Philip Warner. I'm the rector of this beautiful church, which is St Magnus the Martyr on London Bridge, in the city of London, not far from the monument.
When I was walking down here, there's an arch. There was a plaque on the wall saying it's on the way to London Bridge. Did you have to walk through the arch to get to London Bridge?
Well, it's probably easier if I tell you that this church obviously replaces a former church,
Yeah.
which was destroyed in the Great Fire.
Yeah.
This was rebuilt by Christopher Wren, and we're entitled on London Bridge because we really were. You went through our courtyard, under the clock, onto the bridge. But in the 18th century, they widened the bridge to separate the pedestrian traffic from the animals and the carts. Mm-hmm. And to do that, they knocked part of the church back and opened the arches under the tower to make the pedestrian access. So yes, you literally walk under the tower.
There was a building here before the Great Fire.
Yes.
On exactly this footprint or a similar footprint?
Very close, very close. The earliest records show there was a Saxon church, which was made of stone, which set it apart from, made it an important church. And then we're not quite sure the history of that until the Great Fire. But it was a collegiate church. It had a group of clergy. It had cloisters. It was really quite something. Because
so if it had cloisters, does that mean there were monks?
Not monks, but a college of clergy. So, for example, there would have been more than me.
So
Six people,
it's like a teaching church.
Yes.
Yes. The Saxon church, was that also called St Magnus?
It was also called St Magnus. And when William the Conqueror built the White Tower after 1066, and he did an audit of the city, there was definitely a church here called St Magnus. So when you came from the south, unless you came over on a boat, you had to come over on London Bridge. And the first thing you saw was St Magnus the Martyr. So behind me, just outside here, was the Pool of London, where, of course, were all the wharfs and the jetties and the storehouses. And, of course, Billingsgate Market was here, so all the fish that was landed was sold just a little in the other direction. Noise pollution is nothing new. And behind you, there are windows which are like portholes, but originally they were the same size as the ones behind me. They were partially closed up in the 18th century because our record book says the profane language of the fishmongers was disturbing the parishioners at divine worship.
Is there a sort of fishy connection here?
We do indeed, the Worshipful Company of Fishmongers, whose hall is just on the other side of the bridge. Their coat of arms are in one of those windows behind you.
Well, which one?
The one with the fish.
You've got a mermaid, a topless mermaid on there. Is that unusual in the church?
It's not unusual for the fishmongers. No. All the glass here is post-war. Mm-hmm. And in their coat of arms, you've got the 3 dolphins, crowned, and then the other fish are stock fish. Because when you remember, this is pre-Reformation, throughout Lent you couldn't eat meat, and there were many, many other days, including Friday, of course, where you couldn't eat meat. So the fishmongers did very well on the sale of fish. And their patron is St. Peter, the fisherman. Yes. So you've got his signs, which are the cross keys.
All of the windows along that elevation are all livery companies, are they?
3 livery companies.
Yes.
The plumbers, the fishmongers, and the coopers.
So I'm desperately trying to see a barrel on there. I mean, there must be...
No, but you can see the hoops that go around the barrels.
Oh, okay.
This church wasn't badly damaged in the war, but it was damaged. Mm-hmm. It was closed and then, repaired and reopened. The Bishop of London, Willington Ingrams, had his own coat of arms, and there they are. And then the Archbishop of Canterbury, who was Geoffrey Fisher in those days. Well, they are the arms of Canterbury. And the last window is the sign and symbol of an ancient medieval fraternity called the Fraternity of Our Lady de Salve Regina, and that still has members. I'm the master, ex officio, and we still meet for prayers by the statue of Our Lady. In 1343,
Yeah.
some of the fishmongers, and the Constitution says parishioners of the better sort, met and founded this fraternity in devotion to Our Lady St. Mary.
Okay.
So every evening they came, lit candles and sang an anthem, which in Latin is Salve Regina, Hail Holy Queen. And that was their devotion, and they did that, well, until the Reformation put an end to it. But my predecessor, Father Fynes-Clinton, refounded it some 100 years ago. And there we are, and we have a master, myself, a warden, an almoner, a secretary, and not a large membership, but a very lively one.
But it's based in this church, or are there other churches that also are involved?
No, it's based in this church, though of course our members may be attached to other churches.
Yeah.
But otherwise, here is the location, here's the emphasis here. And that's our, you can't really see it because of the altar in the way.
But I feel like I've seen something very like it. Is that the crown that
It's
the Virgin would wear?
Yes.
Rather than, yeah.
Well, the Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
And you'll see it's got 7 stars on the end of the points of the crown.
Okay.
So a woman crowned with the sun and 7 stars. It's from the book of Revelation. This statue is a copy of the one in Walsingham. Walsingham, the great pilgrimage centre in North Norfolk.
Yes.
My predecessor, and I mention his name again, Father Fynes-Clinton, was a great friend of Father Hope Patton, the vicar of Walsingham, who, again, 100 years ago, or more than 100 years now, restored the shrine there and made it the pilgrimage centre which it had been in the Middle Ages.
So this is all part and parcel of how this church became a high church venue?
Yes.
Or was it always high church and the guy who started the society was just kind of picking up and running with it when it became more legal to do so?
No, not in the least.
Oh, okay.
When he came here in 1921, he said that the church here had as little Christian symbolism as a synagogue. And he employed an architect called Martin Travers, whose work you will have seen when you were at Bourne Street. And Martin Travers repaired and beautified, was the expression, the church, and to make it look as if the Reformation happened elsewhere and to other people. So using some of the woodwork, for example, the great reredos behind the altar, he enlarged that and extended what had been there, much higher, much broader. And Father Fynes-Clinton came from a wealthy family. He had money and very set views, and didn't much care for opposition. There was a Protestant called John Kensit,
Yes.
who used to go round and try and, well, he used to go and disturb services. And I looked...
Yeah, sometimes, well, not violently, but certainly very assertively, let's say.
I know. And when I went to the Metropolitan Archives and I looked at our old service registers, there was one from 1925, I think it was, where the rector just writes in the notes, Mr. Kensit brawled in church. So I think that put Kensit in his place. The centre element on the lower tier is probably contemporary with the church. So let's say, for the sake of argument, early 18th century. And it was very common in churches, and you'll have seen these in other city churches, that you have the 10 Commandments in the middle,
Yes.
the Apostles' Creed to one side, and the Lord's Prayer to the other. And you'll also see, again in other churches, Moses on the left and Aaron on the right. They were allowed, as it were, because they had never been a devotion to them in the pre-Reformation period. So, you know, they weren't suspect, as a saint might be.
Oh, they weren't icons. They were just figures from history.
Well, from the Old Testament.
Yes.
Very
you
important.
You wouldn't worship directly.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Very important ones. Moses representing the prophecy and the law,
Yeah.
and Aaron representing the priesthood of the Old Testament. And then Travers added the outer flanks of the upper tier. And then he added also the crucifixion scene at the top.
So that crucifixion scene wouldn't have been normal then in a non-high church setting?
No, in fact, it was
Because you really see it everywhere.
From the mid-19th century, what churches which would have been called advanced did put up crucifixes.
And that's one of the things that's a
Yes.
sign.
Yeah, as there had been in the pre-Reformation churches. You know, in English, Old English, it's called the rood, and so went on a rood screen, which presumably the medieval church here had.
So you know he's Aaron because of the bib thing that he's got. I don't know if you probably don't call it a bib, do you?
You don't call it a bib thing, no, it's a breastplate with 12 stones on it representing the 12 tribes of Israel. All the vestments he's wearing can be found in the Old Testament, I think the book of Leviticus. So everything he's got is mentioned in the Bible.
But it's a priest. It's a priest's.
He's the high priest, yes.
Is there anything about Moses that's saying, oh, that's Moses? Because he's
Yes.
not carrying a tablet, or if he is, I can't see.
Well, he has got, under his left hand, there is the tablet of the law, and in his other hand, he's got the rod with which he struck the Red Sea and parted the waters. And also the rays coming out of his head.
Oh, and you've got the pelican.
The pelican
in the middle.
in her piety.
And the angels on either side.
Yeah, they're mentioned in the book of Isaiah. And there they are with their flaming swords. And you'll notice both Moses and Aaron are pointing with their left hands, and they're pointing to the altar. And I think they're saying, in effect, you know, all the prophecy, all the law with Moses, all the priesthood with Aaron comes together here on the altar in the Holy Communion. We do have relics, yes. St. Thomas of Becket, St. John the Baptist, St. Teresa of Lisieux, St. Thomas of Becket.
Okay, right, let me
No,
get in
you
really
wouldn't.
close.
You wouldn't know that unless I told you.
So the challenge with all these is to get close enough so that the macro lens engages. Really doing it. Well, I can see the word.
Yes.
What do you think that is? A bit of cloak?
No, it's a piece of bone.
Oh,
It's called ex ossibus, from the bone of. Relics come in different shapes and sizes and in different orders of importance. So actually a piece of the body is the first class relic, and then a cloak, for example, a piece of their cloak, something they wore or something they owned, would be a second class relic. On his feast day, on the 29th of December, and again in May, at Mass we may encourage people to come and venerate it, kiss it should they wish.
okay.
That's a common practice. And the other relic which we have, which is not on the altar, but which is in a safe over there, is the true cross. So a tiny splinter
You've got a true cross.
of the true cross.
Can we have a look at that, please? Iris?
I've got to get the key.
Okay. No, it's just too much to fit into one episode. Come back next week. The best is yet to come.